Her name is Diane. She's 47-year-old Black, works full-time in a job in healthcare administration, raises 2 teenagers, and has been managing what her doctor calls borderline high blood pressure for the last 3 years. She is on medication. Her numbers are still not controlled. Diane wakes up between 2 and 3 almost every night. Sometimes she falls back asleep. Most nights she doesn't. By 6 a.m., she's up, getting her kids ready, and by the time she walks into work, she has already been awake for 4 hours. She drinks 3 cups of coffee before noon, and then she tells her provider she's tired. They ask her about stress. She says yes, there is stress, but who isn't stressed? Nobody has asked Diane about her sleep, not systemically, not with a validated tool, not as a clinical priority. Her fatigue has been attributed to her schedule, her responsibilities, and her life.
And the thing is, Diane doesn't think anything is wrong with her sleep. She thinks this is just what her life looks like right now. She's normalized it. She has been tired for so long that tired feels like her baseline. I know we can relate.
Yes, she is not alone, not even close. We're going to talk about who Diane represents today and what the evidence actually says about what is happening in her body every single night she doesn't sleep.
If you're new here, welcome to the Melanin Initiative. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and one of your co-hosts here, along with Alicia and Geraldine. Here, we simplify medical information into language you can understand. We create a safe space for you to ask your questions and share a nursing perspective. We're a health literacy podcast. When we say health literacy, we're talking about your ability to obtain information, to understand it, and then to use it, to advocate for yourself and others. We have 2 missions here. 1 is to promote that health literacy, break down complex information. 2 is to elevate the expertise of nurses, bring awareness to the more diverse career opportunities in healthcare, and then to share with all of our peers all the ways that they can leverage their expertise, both as clinicians caring for patients, but also as entrepreneurs helping to solve problems. This is your reminder. If you haven't already, we invite you to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment or 2, share this information with someone who could use more sleep. Go over to Apple or Spotify podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Every time you engage with our platform like that, it shows the algorithm that this information is important, so that when people like you who are up at 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning are looking for information like this, will show up higher in the search results. Remember, this show is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed here are our opinions alone. They're not a representation of any of our affiliations. If you think you might be experiencing a medical emergency, you seek medical attention and medical guidance from your healthcare provider. If you think you might be having a physical emergency, you can call 911. If you or someone you know might be having a mental health emergency, you can call 988 or text 741-741.
Thanks, Kimberly. So as we always do on the Melanin Initiative, we're going to start with defining what is sleep. So sleep quality is not simply the number of hours you spend in bed. It is a multi-dimensional construct that includes sleep onset latency, which means how long it takes you to fall asleep, sleep duration, sleep efficiency, the number of nighttime awakenings, subjective sleep satisfaction, and how you function during the day as a result of how you slept the night before. The Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, which we call the PSQI, is one of the most commonly used validated tools measuring sleep quality across all of these domains. A score above 5 on the PSQI indicates poor sleep quality. Most of the studies we are referencing today use this tool.
How common is poor sleep? A nationally representative study published in JAMA Network Open in 2022 analyzed data from over 9,000 American adults and found that nearly 1/3 reported at least 1 hour of sleep debt per week. Almost half, 46.5%, experienced social jet lag, meaning their sleep timing on weekends differed significantly from their weekdays. Nearly 30% reported trouble sleeping, and over 27% reported daytime sleepiness, significant enough to interfere with functioning.
Wow. I know the feeling of my whole day being torn apart because I didn't get good sleep.
Same.
And those numbers are not distributed equally across the population.
No, they are not. Research published in the Journal of Sleep Research in 2022 found that African Americans have objectively shorter and less consolidated sleep compared to white adults. up to 40 minutes shorter in total sleep duration, and spend more time in lighter sleep stages. This is not self-reported data. This is polysomnography. This is objective measurement. The disparity is real and it is documented.
And who is most vulnerable? Our older adults, Black women, and we will come back to why specifically, shift workers, people with metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, or chronic pain, people living in under-resourced environments with higher noise exposure, less access to natural daylight, and greater chronic stress burden. Diane is not an outlier. Diane is a data point and a pattern that has been documented for decades and underaddressed for just as long.
I want to start with what is actually happening in the body during sleep, because that is the foundation everything else sits on. When we talk about sleep architecture, the stages of sleep your body cycles through every night, we're talking about biology that is doing work you cannot do any other way. Now, research published in the Sleep Medicine Reviews of 2024 looked at cerebral blood flow across sleep stages. During non-REM sleep, specifically deep, slow wave sleep, cerebral blood flow decreases. So this is blood flow in your brain. And this is when your brain's glymphatic system activates. That is the waste clearance system of the brain, how it gets rid of things it doesn't need. It is removing metabolic byproducts, including proteins associated with neurodegeneration, which is like wear and tear on your brain. During REM sleep, cerebral blood flow increases significantly. This is the kind of sleep we all want to experience. This is when memory consolidation happens, when emotional processing occurs, and when your nervous system is doing the regulatory work, which helps you get back to that nice balanced state that determines how you're going to show up the next day. When you consistently lose sleep, or REM sleep in particular, you're not just tired, you're accumulating neurological debt.
And that lands differently when you think about Diane waking up at 2 a.m. every night. She's not just losing hours, she is losing specific stages of sleep that her body cannot recover without.
Exactly right. I'm Diane, folks. And the downstream clinical consequences are significant. A study published in the AHA Hypertension in 2023 followed over 66,000 women for over 16 years. Through the Nurses Health Study, too, women who had difficulty falling or staying asleep had a 28% higher risk of developing high blood pressure. Women sleeping, this is really me, 5 hours or less per night had a 10% higher risk. Diane already has uncontrolled high blood pressure. Her sleep is not separate from that clinical picture. It's part of it. For our nurses and NPs listening, sleep quality assessment using a validated tool is a screening conversation that belongs in our intake. It is not optional when we're managing a patient with cardiovascular or things affecting the heart risk factors.
And for our NP entrepreneurs, if you're running a cosmetic practice and your patients are coming in for skin concerns, chronic sleep deprivation affects skin barrier function, collagen synthesis, and wound healing. This is not outside of your scope. This is directly relevant to your outcomes.
Yeah, last year I actually attended the integrative, it's the Learn Skin platform, but they call their conference the Integrative Dermatology Symposium, and we get CEs, and so I've been going through those. And they just this week I listened to one of the presentations again on the connection between sleep and the skin. So it's absolutely right there. And a shout out to them. Their conference will be back in August, and they actually have a whole day or a section of the agenda dedicated to integrative aesthetics. We've talked to you all about functional medicine as well as integrative medicine, which is how we get that holistic approach. That's why you hear us talking so much about sleep and stress and not just the pills and the surgeries or the procedures. So there is also a weight management connection that does not nearly get enough clinical attention. Research published in Nutrients, and this is one of those research journals, in 2022 showed that sleep deprivation disrupts the hormonal regulation of appetite, specifically by suppressing leptin, which signals fullness, and elevating ghrelin, which drives hunger. It also reduces metabolic rate and increases preference for calorie-dense foods. Shout out to my night shifters who are there eating full meals in the middle of the night, wondering why your belly is bigger than your thighs. The same study identified that African Americans are disproportionately affected by these metabolic consequences of poor sleep. When you're staying up like that, you're not letting your body get that rest and digest, your cortisol levels are high and your body craves those comforting foods, those pizzas, those burgers, those chips, those fries. So when we talk about health disparities in obesity, in diabetes, in heart disease, sleep is the thread running through all of that.
And I think about how many people in our community are trying to eat better, trying to exercise, doing everything they've been told to do, and nobody asked them how they're sleeping. And the research is telling us that poor sleep is actively working against every other health behavior that we're trying to maintain. You have that, you've changed your life, you're eating better, you're in the gym 3-4 times a week, but you're only sleeping 2 times and wondering why your weight's the same, or that hemoglobin A1C hasn't changed, or any of those things. Well, we have to do a deeper dive, because if all the other things are going well, but you're not sleeping, there's a disconnect. And that is exactly the clinical picture. And it connects to something even longer term. A systematic review and meta-analysis, which is some of the top quality data out there, published in Translational Psychiatry in 2022, found that people with sleep problems have a 3.78 times higher risk of developing preclinical Alzheimer's disease. Decreased slow wave sleep and decreased REM sleep were directly correlated with cognitive impairment severity. So for our older adult patients, sleep quality is not a comfort issue. It is a neurocognitive protection issue.
So let me bring this home practically. If you are a patient or a caregiver listening right now, take out your phone and search for the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. It is a free, validated questionnaire you can complete in about 5 minutes. A score above 5 means your sleep quality is poor and you need to bring that conversation to your provider. Do not wait for your provider to ask you. Bring the score with you. So the TMI takeaway is that your sleep, for this section, is that your sleep quality affects your blood pressure, your weight, your brain, and your long-term risk for dementia. It is a clinical vital sign. Start treating it like one.
Yeah, I heard someone say how well you sleep in your 40s determines your risk of dementia. And then I love that we're bringing up these validated these validated tools and the journals. We're naming those. You can access those on PubMed. In fact, that's where all of our research, that's where I got it from, is on PubMed. That's publicly accessible. We know in communities of color that trust is an issue when it comes to healthcare and who's giving you information. We use those same studies that you can access for free to guide our conversation and to guide our recommendations. If someone gives you a recommendation and you want to know more about it, you go to where they go. When we're in school and even when we're done with our training, that's where we go when we have questions, when you ask us stuff. So we're sharing this with you for the transparency in the hope that it will increase the trust that you have, that you'll feel empowered when you go to appointments to have better conversations. When you have better conversations, you get better outcomes. Now, so far we've established that sleep disparities exist and that Black Americans carry a disproportionate burden. And I want to go a little bit deeper into why this is happening, because the answer is not biological, it's structural. Now, research published in the Current Psychiatry reports in 2022 examined the socio-ecological context of sleep. Women have a 1.2 to 2 times higher prevalence of insomnia compared to men. And within that, perceived racial discrimination was specifically associated with increased insomnia risk in Black women. This is a direct physiological pathway. Chronic stress from racial discrimination activates the HPA axis. It elevates that cortisol I was talking about, and it disrupts the body's ability to initiate and maintain sleep, and it affects healing. If you're trying to recover from a surgery, maybe you just went and saw Geraldine and got some cosmetic procedures, you're trying to heal. And when your stress levels are high, it impairs that ability. This is not a psychological response. This is a documented neuroendocrine mechanism. That means it's happening all over. The same research identified that caregiving responsibilities, working conditions, relationship quality, and neighborhood environment all shape sleep health. Diane is not struggling to sleep because she's doing something wrong. Diane is struggling to sleep because the cumulative load, everything she carries as a Black woman, as a caregiver, and as an employee, is physiologically incompatible with restorative sleep in the absence of intervention.
And this is a conversation I wish more of our community could hear. I believe that many of us go through this and we just don't talk about it enough. Because the default narrative is that we are tired because we are not managing our time well, or we need to have better routines. And the research is saying something completely different. The research is saying the environment itself is the problem.
And we have to look at ourselves, the industry, right? I can't imagine anyone sleeps 8 hours going through nursing school. Did you do that, Geraldine? Or NP school, right? Because most nurses, compared to physicians, work through school. That's my theory. My theory is that 98% of nurses work through school,
Yep.
and only 2% of doctors work through school. Speaking of our doctor colleagues, they're doing 24-hour rotations. There's no sleep there, right? So we're preaching to the choir, and it's almost mandatory that you spend some of your training or work night shift. There is not one documented research that says that's okay. It leads to all the things we're talking about: infertility, weight gain, obesity. That's how we become a patient of the industry. Yeah. The environmental piece extends to light exposure, which is something most of us are not discussing with our patients at all. And that's because we haven't been taught, right? An international expert consensus published in the PLOS Biology in 2022, authored by researchers from Harvard, Oxford, and the University of Manchester and Northwestern, among others, established evidence-based recommendations for indoor light exposure across the day. The science works like this. Our eyes contain specialized cells that regulate our circadian clock. That's our body's internal clock, that even if your electricity is out, you still know it's morning. You still know it's the middle of the day. You still know it's time to go to sleep, right? That's your circadian rhythm. Our melatonin production, that's that hormone that tells you it is time to go to sleep, that maybe some of us ignore. And our level of alertness through a photopigment called melanopsin. The consensus recommendations are specific. During the daytime, minimal light exposure should be 250 melanoptic lux to support circadian alertness. In the evening, starting at least 3 hours before bed, exposure should drop to a maximum of 10. The sleep environment itself should be as dark as possible, maximum of 1. And here is what most people do not know. Screens alone, in the absence of any other light source, can exceed the threshold for half maximal melatonin suppression. Your phone in a dark room at 10 p.m. is actively suppressing your hormone your body needs to initiate sleep. Now, we are taught this one. I don't know if anybody goes by that one.
I don't, but I try to. But definitely we're taught about like sleep hygiene and like limiting. I personally don't have like a TV in my bedroom for that reason, because I will watch TV and stay up until 3 a.m. if I did. And I do try to like put my phone away and turn it over so that and put it on do not disturb to help me not get distracted. Some people even go as far as like putting their phone in a different room from where they sleep, which is something that I should start doing, and probably just get a little old school alarm clock to wake me up in the morning. But yeah, that is definitely screen time. Definitely contributes to poor sleep in a lot of people. So I want to connect this to the community level. Many people in under-resourced neighborhoods do not have access to natural daylight during the day. They work indoors. They may not have access to green space or safe outdoor environments. So they are getting inadequate daytime light and excessive nighttime light from the screens. Both ends of that equation are working against their sleep biology simultaneously.
And nobody is talking to them about light. They're getting told to go to bed earlier. The intervention is not matching the problem.
There is one more piece in this disparity conversation I want to address, and that is cannabis. Because in many of the communities we serve, cannabis is being used as a sleep aid. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in Sleep Medicine Reviews in 2025 found that cannabis does not consistently improve sleep architecture. More importantly, cannabis withdrawal consistently disrupts sleep, reducing total sleep time, increasing sleep onset latency, and causing REM rebound. This means that people are using cannabis for sleep. This means that the people that are using cannabis for sleep may be managing a withdrawal-driven sleep problem without even realizing it. This is a conversation that needs to happen in clinical settings without judgment, and it needs to happen with evidence.
I totally agree, Geraldine. So I think our takeaway from this section is that if you are using cannabis to sleep, you deserve a conversation with a clinician who will give you the full clinical picture, not just tell you to stop, but actually give you something evidence-based to replace it with. You deserve a better workaround. Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about some non-pharmacologic interventions. So this is the section I want every clinician listening to take notes on, because we have evidence. We have strong, peer-reviewed, clinically applicable evidence for non-pharmacological interventions that improve sleep quality, and we are underutilizing all of them. The first line treatment for chronic insomnia, not medication, not supplements, is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which we call CBTI. This is confirmed across multiple sources we are drawing from today, including the Lifestyle Medicine Framework published in Mayo Clinic Proceedings in 2024. Restorative sleep as one of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, alongside nutrition, physical activity, stress management, avoidance of risky substances, and positive social connection. CBTI is described in that framework as the most effective long-term treatment for insomnia, supported by clinical trial data. Its effects are durable, meaning they persist after the intervention ends, which is something that's really important. You don't want something to just work while you're doing it. It should have long-lasting effects. Unlike sleep medication, which works when you take it.
And for our entrepreneurs, CBTI is a reimbursable clinical service. If you're seeing patients with sleep complaints and you're not screening for insomnia or referring for CBTI, you're leaving both a clinical and a revenue opportunity on the table. And rule number 1 is don't leave money on the table. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1.
Exactly. And for patients who cannot access a therapist trained in CBTI right now, and access is a real barrier, especially in our communities, there are digital CBTI programs that are evidence-based and FDA cleared. Sleepio is one. The VA has a free app called CBTI Coach. These are not replacements for working with a clinician, but they are legitimate starting points.
I'm going to look into that one.
Yes.
Now, the second intervention, and actually my dad, who watches all these episodes and needs to watch this one, I want you to look into it too and tell us what you think. Now, the second intervention is exercise. And the research here is more specific than exercise is good for you. A systematic review, right, a high quality study, and network meta-analysis published in Family Medicine and Community Health in 2025 analyzed 25 randomized controlled trials with over 2,000 older adults with insomnia, very common in our older adult population. They ranked exercise by efficacy using a statistical method called the surface under the cumulative ranking curve. Strengthening exercise, like your resistance training and weight-bearing movements, ranked the highest with a super score of 94.6%. Aerobic exercise ranked second. Combination exercise ranked third, and all 3 produced clinically significant improvements in their scores. The practical implication, if you have a patient with insomnia or you're the patient listening to this, resistance training is your highest yield exercises recommended specifically for sleep. This matters especially for older adults for whom hypnotic medications carrying significant. So this is really important for not only our older adults, but specifically our women, because once you get past menopause and your estrogen goes down, we know that we're losing that muscle and that bone. And so those resistance training becomes helpful there. It becomes good when you're getting older because of all the changes that are happening with your hormones in general. And getting older, just by being older, part of aging is difficulty sleeping. So it might be difficulty falling asleep, and certainly difficulty staying asleep. And so this here will help you not only get better sleep, reduce your risk for cardiovascular risk, reduce your risk for falls, which depending on when you're watching this should be available in our playlist. So it has overall implications in terms of, and your mood. And this matters for longer lives, if you want to have a longer lifespan.
And when we say resistance training, we are not saying you need to go out tomorrow and buy a gym membership, unless you want to. But what we're saying is, we're talking about body weight squats, wall push-ups, resistance bands, things that are accessible in a living room. Get that frozen can of something or another. That matters for communities where gym access is a barrier. Use what you have at home.
Yeah, and shout out to all of our fitness influencers, because they have really created a lot of great content, and a lot of them will say, without no equipment needed, start with where you are. And depending on where you are, you might have just walkable where you can go. They have all those outdoor equipments too. Use that. Take the whole family. It's free. Get some vitamin D. Now, the third intervention It comes back to the food. This is what I talk to all my patients about these days. We talk about food all the time. Now, this connects to that gut-brain axis we've been talking a lot about. In a study published in Nutrients in 2024, it examined the relationship between the gut, that's your intestines and your stomach, microbiome, and sleep. Microbiome, you have bacteria and flora down there all the time that's doing a lot of work for you without you even having to think about it. And as long as it stays nice and balanced, you never have any issues. When it's not balanced, like when you're not sleeping, we start to get some issues. And when we talk about integrative medicine, and they can correct me, a lot of when they get to the root cause of things, they usually like to start with the gut. And that's why it usually comes back to the kitchen and what you're putting in your body and the environment, what's around you that's also being absorbed through your skin, but also the stress, right? So the gut microbiome produces neurotransmitters, including serotonin, GABA, and melatonin, all which regulate that sleep-wake cycle. In a Western diet, high in processed foods and low in fiber, it disrupts that access completely. Now, Mediterranean-style diet, which has been well documented, has increased dietary fiber intake. It supports restoration of your gut, and by extension, your sleep. The message for you is straightforward. Your dinner is talking to your brain at 2 a.m. What do you want it to say?
Woo, message. That is framing right there. Your dinner is talking to your brain. That is something a patient will remember. Me too. So the fourth intervention is botanical. And I want to be precise here because this is evidence, not a wellness trend. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in Complementary Therapies in Medicine in 2024 analyzed 10 clinical trials with 772 participants and found that chamomile significantly reduced your PSQI score and improved both sleep onset latency and nighttime awakenings. Chamomile tea before bed is not a folk medicine. It is a non-pharmacologic intervention with a growing evidence base. So for patients looking for something accessible, affordable, and low risk, this is a legitimate clinical recommendation.
If you smoke and you want to quit, first, we want you to know that quitting nicotine is one of the hardest things a person can do. Not because you lack willpower, because nicotine physically rewires the brain. This is not a character issue, this is a chemistry issue, and you do not have to do it alone. Here are your options. Nicotine replacement therapy, patches, gum, lozenges, and inhalers reduces withdrawal symptoms by giving your body a lower, controlled dose of nicotine while you break the habit. They are available over the counter. Chantix is a prescription medication that reduces cravings and makes smoking less satisfying. It is one of the most effective cessation medications available. Bupropion is another prescription option that reduces cravings and is especially helpful for people who also experience depression. Counseling and behavioral support, whether in person, by phone, or through an app, significantly improve quit success rates when combined with medication. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW for free telephone counseling. Visit smokefree.gov for free apps and text support. And talk to your care team about which option is right for you. Quitting is possible, support is available, and you deserve both. This message is brought to you by the Melanin Initiative Podcast, where we simplify health information so you can advocate for yourself and for the people you love. Find us on Apple and Spotify.
Yes, and you're going to hear us talk more about not only integrative medicine, but plant medicine. This is a personal interest of mine. And so that's where this is coming from. But the chamomile. So when I was a nurse at the bedside and the doctor had already given the melatonin, or they had already given the Ambien, or they didn't feel comfortable giving any of those, that happens. Even if you've been taking it 30 years at home, now you're in the hospital, they don't care. The risk of the side effects is too great. They're not going to give it to you. Yes, you came to the hospital and you thought it was there for healing. Those aren't supposed to get, isn't sleep part of the healing process? That's a conversation for another day. But I would buy the sleepy time tea and I would offer it to my patients and they would take it and they would sleep. And you don't need a prescription for that. So shout out to my nurses and my caregivers. And even though we're talking about chamomile tea, my mom, I sent her some valerian root, which is another popular herb for sleep. And on night one with her CPAP, she has been having quality sleep. So at first I thought, okay, it's a placebo. She's tired. We went away for the weekend. She's just exhausted. She's back in her own bed. But 5 nights in a row, she said, I'm sleeping good, girl. She's waking up once a night and she goes right back to sleep. Before, she said her brain just kept going, going, going. So she was waking up, reading the Bible, sewing. But she's like, I don't need to do that anymore. She's like, the only thing I'm thinking about is one thing, and that's going back to sleep. So we'll talk about more of that in the future. Now, the 5th intervention brings us back to light. In the 3 hours before bed, we want you to reduce your light exposure. Use warm tone, dim lighting, put your phone down, or use the night mode, and understand that night mode reduces but doesn't eliminate the melanosopsin stimulation that I talked about before. The bedroom should be dark, completely dark. Blackout curtains if light enters from the outside. This is not a luxury recommendation. This is circadian biology. Now, as a former night shifter, so what I did is I would still try to keep as much of a regular routine as possible. So I didn't bring a full meal for dinner. I ate dinner before I went to work. And I would only take like a little snack, and then I would just eat very early in the morning. That's when I got, because some of my colleagues, they wouldn't eat breakfast when they went home. And a lot of them who didn't get the big belly, they were just nibblers. They didn't sit down. Some people order full blown meals at 2 a.m. And then for sleep, I didn't always need blackout curtains, but I did need to be really cold. And I just tried to keep the same schedule, like the same wake up and go to sleep. Those are things that kind of helped me. And then even now I notice I still have that. Like there's like a whole wind down as the day goes on, as the night comes. Prepare tea. I do turn down the lights. I have candles, which has the aromatherapy. There is no TV in the bedroom. The bedroom is only supposed to be for sleep and sex. So there's that. And then if I have to, I don't really have a lot of things in my head, but I try to write things down as much as possible so they're not going through my head and keeping me up. And exercise, I think that helps too. And there's a lot of studies, especially went to that conference with Learn Skin. Like every speaker who got up there said, make sure you walk after you eat dinner. Like everyone said it. My main question is it specifically after dinner that it needs to happen? Or was it that you need to walk every day? I really wanted someone to actually address that. But in the meantime, I've just been making sure I walk after dinner. And I think that helps. And eating earlier too, not eating too late. That's a big one too. So our takeaway for this section is that CBTI is the most effective long-term treatment for insomnia. Resistance training is the most effective exercise intervention for sleep quality. And it has all those other benefits too. And the Mediterranean diet supports the gut-brain axis that regulates your sleep hormones. Chamomile has clinical evidence behind it. You can go pick it up on the shelf right now. And your light environment is either working for your sleep or against it. There's no neutral. These are not suggestions. These are evidence-based tools. And I will say, it did help me that as night shift, I only did night shift. I didn't do that whole back and forth. That will mess up your system. Yeah. Nobody can even believe. I think you need one or the other.
Yeah, Alicia and I think we both we rotated, and that was not fun. And I was one of those people eating a full meal at 2 a.m. because that's what my body wanted, and I craved chips and all of the worst things. And so I actually spoke to you, Kimberly, about it. I think we were chatting about it. Then I started like shifting once I noticed all the weight I was gaining, working night shift and trying to like eat when I got to eat right before I got to work or right when I got to work, because it was still like traditional like dinner time. Mm-hmm. And then snacking on like vegetables in the middle of the night, like at 2 or 3 a.m. when I got hungry. So yeah.
I learned that from like the long-term ones, the ones who have been doing it for a long time, like Marian and Akumi. I know I modeled after them. So
man, we joked a lot about me crying on the way to night shift, but I think a lot of it was just like the rotating and like, how do I sleep? How do I eat? How do I maintain a work-life balance like this? So rotating y'all have a special place in my heart.
And you lose a whole day just trying to recover.
You do. You're like, wait, I have to work tomorrow day shift. Like I don't know how I did it. I don't know how we did it.
Yeah, and then if you get called in or your kids get sick or there's like the country shuts down or anything, and then it's like you can't go back to sleep. And actually a lot of night shifters, we wouldn't sleep. So if it's my last shift of the week, I just would stay up, go grocery shopping, and so there's nothing good about it.
Oh yeah, I did the same thing. I remember going on a vacation, like I'll sleep when I get there, but like I'm trying to get there. I'm not trying to go to sleep. So used to do crazy things, and like what sacrificed? Sleep.
Yeah. It's the first thing to go when you go to professional school, when you are starting a business, When you have children, it's the first thing to go. When you're stressed, actually, you could just be stressed out for a number of reasons.
Yeah. And then you can find that you're able to fall asleep. I suffer from that too sometimes. If I'm stressed or, I don't think that I'm stressed, but then I realize when I don't get that quality sleep that maybe I am stressed. I'm waking up like every hour in the middle of the night. So I'm not getting that like quality sleep because of whatever outside stressor is affecting me. So sleep is very, very important. To wrap up, before we bring Diane back, let me give you your action items. If you are a patient or caregiver, complete the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index this week. A score above 5 means you need to bring this to your provider. Start one thing from today's episode, whether that's the chamomile, the resistance training, the phone out of the bedroom 3 hours before bed, one thing, and just start there. If you're a nurse or a nurse practitioner, add quality sleep screening tool to your intake process. Ask the question. Use the PSQI or the Insomnia Severity Index. Document it. If your patient screens positive, refer to CBTI or point them to digital CBTI program while they wait for access. This is a gap in care you have the authority to close. If you're a healthcare entrepreneur and cosmetic NP, sleep deprivation affects your patient's skin outcomes, their healing, their treatment response. Sleep health is within your scope and within your brand. Consider how you integrate this conversation into your patient education touchpoints. Insomnia screening, sleep health education, and CBTI referral pathways are value-added services that differentiate a comprehensive practice from a transactional one.
Yeah, I love that we're pointing that out because, you spend all that time educating your client, you do the treatment, and they come back and they're upset that it didn't work out the way they thought it would. And you just can't figure out why it's not working out. And it's the sleep, especially when we're talking about the skin, which is the largest organ of the body. And maybe you just need to start there first. Or like I tell our members of the Alliance of Cosmetic Nurse Practitioners, this is another thing you can offer in your plan, a whole sleep package, right? And that's another thing you can get paid for. We're here to talk about the money. So let's get back to Diane. Diane went to a new provider, one who asked about sleep as part of her intake. She completed that Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. Her score was 13. She was referred for CBTI. She started taking a short walk after dinner 3 nights a week. And look, honest, not everybody can get out. Not everybody's in a neighborhood where they feel safe to do that. And I recommend the walking pad. It doesn't have any arms or anything, so it doesn't need to take up a lot of space. It's flat if you need to slide it under. And you can get some that are really expensive, or you can get one like I got, which is like probably $140 or something. Next time you have a birthday or there's a sale, you can grab it. You get a standing desk, and if you have to keep working because you don't have babysitters, because you're working and going to school full time, or you're caring for your loved ones and you just had a baby, right? There are options out there, and they can be affordable. So she took a short walk after dinner 3 nights a week. Start with 3. Don't overdo it. She switched her bedroom lamp to a warm tone bulb, and she brought back those blackout curtains. And she stopped doom scrolling after 9 p.m. 3 months later, her PSQI score was 6. Her blood pressure medications were achieving much better control. She told her provider she felt like herself again for the first time in years.
And nobody told Diane she needed to try harder or manage her stress better. Someone finally asked the right question and then gave her real tools.
That is what we are here to do. Ask the right questions, give you the real tools, and make sure our communities know that their health is worth that level of care.
Today's episode drew from 13 peer-reviewed sources that nurses can publish, including research from JAMA Network Open, the AHA Hypertension Journal, the Journal of Sleep Research, Sleep Medicine Reviews, Translational Psychiatry, Nutrients, Current Psychiatry Reports, Complementary Therapies in Medicine, Family Medicine and Community Health, the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, plus Biology, and we'll link all of those in the show notes.
If this episode gave you something, and I truly hope it did, be sure to share it. Someone in your circle is Diane, and they need to hear this. Find us on social media, leave us a review, and tell us what topics you want us to cover next. This podcast exists because of this community. And if you're a nurse practitioner who wants to go deeper on the business and clinical side of healthcare entrepreneurship, visit Mahogany Dermatology Nursing and the Alliance of Cosmetic Nurse Practitioners. Links will be provided in the show notes. We are the Melanin Initiative. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other.
And we'll throw up some things you can screenshot and take to your next appointment. Thanks, Angie. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.